So let's go ahead and get this show on the road here. I would love to start off this call with some wins. We celebrate them large or small. And so if anybody has a win that they want to share, I'd love for you just to unmute and tell us what's been happening.
As they're thinking about wins, I have one. I didn't get a chance to do this, so I'm interrupting.
Do it.
Beards or mustache, please. Let's hear it. Or none. You can
Can't
say
grow
none
either.
too. Oh, well,
Can't grow
me
either.
neither, if I'm being honest. But
What were
I'd like to chime in. We've had a pretty good win over the last week.
Let's go.
oh,
tell us what's been happening?
come on.
Talking with Jonathan, and we sort of set some goals to build up our reviews. And initially, we set out to have 30 reviews by the end of the month, and we're now up to 33. And that was our conversation with Jonathan just over, I think, about a week ago. So yeah, no, pretty decent win.
Yeah, a week.
All
I
right.
think it was like 9 days. So come on. That's what
That's
I'm talking
incredible.
about.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it feels pretty
Wow.
good.
Yes,
go.
it should feel good. If you're ever having a bad day, just go and read some reviews, have a good cry. But always can help. That's huge. Anybody else have a win that they want to share?
I do.
Tell us, Shatoya, what's going on?
I've been talking about lately that we've been doing our weekly meetings, and I see the excitement just from our team that we're having, which I think is great. Just as every time that I know one of our guys seemed kind of off, and then when we were getting off, like his attitude just seemed like a lot better, which I think is great. Another thing is that we have a potential project that I think it's going to go through, but they're saying that it's going to be starting on Wednesday, about 6 weeks worth of work. They need about 8 guys, and I've been hiring consistently, so I'm like, I have all these guys and candidates in the pool, so it's going to keep us pretty busy.
Yes, lots of wins, meetings, hiring
Come on.
process, new jobs. It's phenomenal. Anybody else have a win that they want to share? I
Or
saw Dale with Arnold's Plumbing just popped on the chat, and I know that doesn't have a camera, so he can't jump on. But if you can put a picture of your new puppy in the chat, Dale, we would all love to see your new puppy. He texted me last week and he said, "Meet my new roommate," and it is the cutest little guy. And so would love for you to share, Dale, if you can. Any other wins before we get going here today? Okay, going once, going twice. All right, well, let's get going here. Before I get started, if you can't turn on your camera, this is my final plea. We would love to see you. If not, no big deal. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about here today, and I'll be honest with you guys, I was a little bit nervous to do this topic. And why is because I know that you guys come to Redmond Growth because you want practical coaching. You want practical, tangible. You're not going to a Tony Robbins conference and roaring like a lion and walking on hot coals. I get it. I'm not going to make you do any of those things here today. Rudy might though. So, so what we're going to be talking about today is the mindset to win. And this is so important. I would even say that this is the most important thing, that if you do not have the right mindset when it comes to approaching your relationship with Redmond Growth, when it comes to approaching your business, when it comes to approaching truly anything in life, it doesn't matter or the tools or the systems that you have. If you do not have the right mindset, you will not be able to reach your goals. I've been here at Redmond Growth for a little over 5 years now. And I can very confidently say that the biggest determining factor that I have seen with I'm sure over 100 clients that I've coached up to this point, the biggest determining factor that I see between a client that wins and a client that doesn't is the mindset that they choose to have. every single day, the mindset that they wake up with. And so bear with me here. I'm going to try to not be on my pulpit too much. I'm going to try to make it fun for you guys, but I promise if you can grasp the concept that we're talking about today, you're going to see the benefits in every other aspect of your business and potentially your life if you apply it personally as well. Let's see here. So why should you care about this? There's a big difference in between having a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. We are very passionate about growth here at Redmond Growth, so passionate, we put it in our name. And it's because you have to be so focused on those goals, and you have to have this mindset of, I'm going to be tenacious about doing whatever I need to do to really hit those goals. This is the exact reason that in our first meeting with every client, we compare ourselves to a personal trainer, because our program works the exact same way. If you hired a personal trainer for your fitness, they're going to give you the workouts, the meal plan. They're going to give you some sort of accountability. But if you approach it begrudgingly, if you don't do the workouts, if you don't learn to love it, who's going to stick to that program? In fact, most studies show that people quit within the first 6 weeks of starting a fitness program. Your mindset that you have when you approach something that is going to be hard, because who could say here, you guys are all entrepreneurs, who would agree that being an entrepreneur can be a little bit tough? Show of hands. Starting a business, owning a business is not for the faint of heart. Being an employee could be a little bit easier than being a business owner. You chose a hard path. And so in order to really succeed, and not just to succeed, but to be happy, we have to approach this rather hard task with a healthy mindset. So I'm going to throw some words at you that you might, up to this point, have thought as negative. Words like pig-headed, stubborn. I think this is typically one that we praise. But one thing that we talk about a lot here is pig-headed, being pig-headed about the right thing, like this little pig says here. Be pig-headed about something magnificent. If you are pig-headed about your business, it is going to require that because it is hard. The pathway to success is filled with failure. And when you are in the middle, you can feel like you're failing. Who's been there? Who might be there right now where you're like, hey, we've made a lot of progress and I'm succeeding, but I'm still not where I want to go. And so it can be a little bit disheartening. You know, you can feel like you're failing, even though you're not. You're just not where you want to be. You have to be so pig-headed and stubborn. We had an excellent group call last week led by Jonathan Rood, where we covered the 4 areas that we see clients get.
Shoot, that was a
We lost you,
cliffhanger.
Nicole.
No, it's through my computer now. Bear with me here. It's reconnecting.
As that's reconnecting, we have a beautiful puppy dog photo in the chat from Dale.
Here.
That was it. I don't have anything else. Anybody have that person in their life, they just laugh at some things that you say and make you feel funny? Well, that's Caden for me. You know, he's in my office laughing and I'm like, I think I hit the nail on the head, but everyone else is straight face. So
Can we hear me now?
yeah, I can
Yep,
hear you.
You're back.
Okay, great. Bryce, could you write down to get me a new headset? This is happening all the time. We've got to
Sure.
fix it. So let's pick back up. So last week we had a group call led by Jonathan Rood, where we talked about the 4 areas that we see people get the most content, but ultimately are some of the areas that we see drive the most growth in your business. Who was here last week, was on that group call, or have listened to it? Show of hands. Okay, so I know somebody has to remember at least one of those topics that Rudy covered.
Oh,
What is
shoot.
One of the things that we talked about last week, that's one of the areas that we see people get content in. Can somebody unmute and tell me if they remember?
Nicole, was it reviews?
That's one. That's one. Good job, Toya. Anybody else?
I just
Can you
hear
name another?
Caden through the office go, really loud.
Very passionate about reviews.
I believe systems was one of them.
Yes, yes, building systems. Anybody else? Can we remember the other two?
Team meetings.
Meetings, Bobby. Love it. And then there's one last one.
I'm struggling to remember the last one, if I'm being honest.
I'm very
I remember
impressed
the
so
red
far.
car.
The last one is profitability, which is funny because you know we are profit first professionals here, and it tends to be the one that people neglect the most. So if you haven't listened to that group call, I would mark it on your calendar to listen to it. I'll have Bryce, if you could put a link in the chat to that group call. We also have a group call inventory, guys. All of the calls are recorded. And so if you want access to that, please don't go in there and just try to listen to all of them. Maybe ask your coach which one would be the best one for you to listen to at the stage that you're in right now. But that was a great one for everybody to listen to if you haven't already. Why I bring this up is because in order to make sure you are consistently doing these things, it requires pig-headed stubborn discipline. You have to have that mindset because I'm sure you get sick of us talking about reviews. I'm sure that there are times where you aren't super pumped about doing a team meeting or sitting down and building out a system or being stubborn about learning your financials and implementing profit first. But the change will not happen after one conference or one group call or one one-on-one meeting with your coach. Or, you know, change happens only when you get incredibly stubborn about implementing and seeing that change. I have so many clients that I'll give them something and they're excited about it. A service call checklist, a home safety inspection. They've read Profit First, they're excited about it. But then we don't see the implementation or we try implementing it once and we fail and then we don't do it again. We're disheartened. We're excited about it and we don't get stubborn about it enough to where we can start seeing the results. And so it requires that pig-head and stubborn discipline. Let's see. This also requires you to not be pig-headed and stubborn about things that do not work. You cannot be stubborn about sticking to old ways that did not get you the results you were looking for in the past. There has to be a willingness to pivot, innovate, and do things differently that you've never done before. Change is freaking hard, guys. It's hard. But change is required. If you want to see different results than what you've gotten in the past, change is 100% necessary. Being a successful business owner requires consistently looking at every system in your business and applying defining the issue, acting upon it, measuring the result, and refining the process. This is something that we do at Redmond Growth almost weekly, is we are editing documents. Poor Jonathan Rude, we were sitting in our all-staff meeting yesterday, and I think he got assigned at least 5 systems that he had to go in and edit after that call, based on new information that we got.
Somehow it was mostly Bryce, but I'm going to thank you, Bryce.
for helping. And so this is something that we apply to ourselves. Now, this does not mean that you are consistently bunny hopping from one idea to the other as soon as something fails or a customer's upset. Like I've had the experience where a client raises their prices and then they don't win a certain job and they come to me saying, the prices are wrong. We've got to drop it. I'm never going to close the deal again. We can't make decisions based off of one interaction. And so we've got to be stubborn about knowing to implement the change and waiting till we see the results. And it will require, there might be some things in your business or ways that you've been going about things that you're pretty married to, but it's not served you in the past. If we want to see different results, it's going to require us to be willing to change. Now, lastly, and this is something that I learned from Robert Redmond. He's told me this once and it really resonated with me. We have to have pig-headed, stubborn discipline about saying no to 1,000 things in order to obsess over that one thing. And when he first told that to me, I thought what he meant is like, say no to going out with friends or say no to date night with your wife or husband so that you can, so obsessively focus on this one thing. Not what it means. Saying no to 1,000 things in order to obsess over that one things, you might be saying no to things that could be good opportunities, but it is not the right time. A great example of this that I could think of is sometimes we have clients who have like profitability issues or cash flow issues. And maybe it's because they're taking commercial jobs. And maybe we're sitting down and we're focusing on profitability and solving that profitability and cash flow issues. But then you get a bid for a huge commercial job. We can get distracted by that high revenue number. We could get so distracted by it that we decide to forget about the profitability and the cash flow issues that we're trying to solve, and we take that job because we're excited about that revenue. But ultimately, that's going to distract us and even put us further from this one issue that we're obsessing over. That commercial might keep your guys busy, but it's going to put us further from that one goal that we're obsessing over, which is profitability and cash flow issues. You would be better off saying no to that job and doing a lot more service work. These are the types of things that you have to say no to. It might even be a good opportunity, but it might be the wrong time. We've got to obsess over that one thing that you're trying to solve in your business, and you got to get so stubborn about it that you're not going to move from it until it's done, until you see it.
I can't stress how important this is. We deal with a lot of people, amazing people. There's a small percentage, might be you, might not be, that sometimes it's like, well, hey, Jonathan, why don't we implement this as well and this, or what about this? Yeah, those are good things. It's not the right time. Let's do this one thing first that we've already talked about being a good thing, and that we need to have this done. And or maybe something that we're not even talking, it's not even on the coaching pathway. It's just, hey, this new idea, or the Alexa, what do you call it? Lead generation, or they say I'm not on Alexa and I need to be on Alexa. It's like, let's not get distracted by the millions of people trying to grab your attention. Great people who do great marketing, but at the end of the day, let's really get serious about what's right in front of us right now and see that through completion.
Yes,
Super good.
This is the exact reason where if a client comes to us and they say, hey, can we start doing ads? If that client hasn't even consistently started to get Google reviews or gotten to a certain amount of Google reviews, we're hesitant to start ads with that client. Why is that? It's because we know that's a more fruitful activity. We know that that's going to get leads, going to be a lot cheaper. And so we want you to obsess over that before getting distracted by something that might be good in the future, but it's not good right now. Now, I would love, oh, go ahead, Bryce.
I was just going to add a small piece. The exchange between these two things, saying no to 1,000 things in order to obsess over one, is also kind of subtle at times, because when you say yes to anything, you're also saying no to at least one thing, if not many other things as well. And Nicole said this is something that Robert really inspired her with. If you're inspired by other figures, I think this is a Steve Jobs quote as well, that guy accomplished incredible things. And he talks about how he's so much, or what does it say? I'm just as proud of the things that we haven't done as the things that we have, meaning that they said no to a lot of really good ideas so that they could focus on the best idea.
So I'm
Huge.
going to ask the group, and this might be a little bit uncomfortable. Bear with me, we're all friends here, okay? If you could unmute and tell me, what is something that you're decided today, you know what, I'm going to get stubborn about this. I'm going to get stubborn about implementing a home safety inspection with my team, or I'm going to get stubborn about focusing on my profitability. Can anybody unmute? Is anybody feeling brave and willing to be a little bit uncomfortable and tell me what they're going to be focusing on, what they're going to get stubborn about? All right, come on, guys. I know that we can. I'm getting a little sad here, guys.
Yeah, I'll chime in.
Jacob, tell us.
So right now we're sort of working on our purple cow and sort of our core values. And right now, me and my dad, the business has sort of been revolved basically around us, but we're trying to shift away from that and have it be about the business versus us. So our guys,
Yes.
we're working on trying to pretty much drive our values down their throats, so that, not literally, but so that
I mean,
in
if
their
you're a
brain.
cookie, you may as well. So
That's right. We're basically working on ways that we can pretty much put it in their brain so that they're delivering the same message each and every time, the same
Yes.
message that we're trying to get across to our clients, and to pretty much build the business based around those values versus
Around you
just,
guys.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I have Bobby Blue right here on the screen. I see a few others here who I think could talk to you for hours about one of the hardest things in the business so far was making the transition from being the number one employee to the business to the business owner. That is hard. That requires a lot of being stubborn. You're going to have to get stubborn with your team about following processes and systems. That is a hard transition. It's going to require being stubborn and having that discipline. So I appreciate, Jacob, you sharing that with us. Speaking of being uncomfortable, I was uncomfortable sitting there when nobody was willing to speak up. You guys were uncomfortable enough to not want to talk. And so uncomfortableness, nobody likes to be uncomfortable. However, we rarely ever see growth or progress from a position of comfortability. We see growth and we see progress whenever we are willing to step out that comfort zone and do something new and pursue something. Speaking, you all know this better than anybody because you took a big freaking risk to start your own company. You said, I'm going to step out of the comfort zone of being an employee and I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to say no to that comfortability and that consistency of being an employee. And I'm going to start something new. Most businesses fail within the first year. A lot of you guys are all, past that by many years. You've chosen to pick a harder path. You stepped out of that comfort zone. But yet, after a couple years of being a business owner, what we can see is that sometimes we forget that it was the decision to step out of the comfort zone that got you to where you currently are. We can get kind of comfortable in the, day to day and where the business is at. And the same, we can get comfortable in just focusing on that, not focusing on growth, not focusing on the business owner activities. And we forget that it was the decision to be uncomfortable and step out of that comfort zone that started the freaking company in the first place. I love this quote by Mike Tyson. He says, you have to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm always comfortable being uncomfortable. I have to hone my discipline, which to me is doing what I have to do, but also doing it like I love it. I'm going to repeat that part again. Doing it like I love it. He's not saying that, oh, I do the things that I don't want to do begrudgingly or with a bad attitude. I just do them to get them done. No, he's saying that he's successful and his success stems from learning to love being in that uncomfortability, learn to love those activities that might be difficult and doing them as if it is an activity that they love. Successful people learn to love the activities that they have to do to reach their goals, even if it's something that they naturally did not feel comfortable with or wanted to do. You have to learn to love this process. There is a reason not everyone does the hard things. We would all be entrepreneurs if we wanted to all do the hard things. Okay. Not everyone is built out for it. Not everyone is willing to be in that state of uncomfortability. Now you might be asking me, Nicole, okay, I get it. I'm feeling all pumped up, rah, woody-doo. What does this look like practically? Let's go over some practicalness. So who here has gotten a Google review or asked for a Google review and the person said that they were going to leave one and never left one? Anybody dealt with that? Or who's gotten some Google reviews and then Google said, I'm going to take away a couple of these, make your life a little bit spicier. You know, I know you worked hard for these. I'm going to take a couple. Anybody dealt with that? Okay, that can be really frustrating. And if you want to have a moment of frustration, have that moment. That's okay. You know, have that moment of feeling frustrated. But the mindset that we need to have, instead of saying getting Google reviews is hard, half of them or less than half sometimes get deleted. I have to ask people so I have to ask people several times. I feel like I'm annoying. Instead of having that attitude about it, let's have the attitude of I'm going to get 2 Google reviews a week no matter what. No matter what, I'm not going to get emotional about it. I'm going to accept that it's going to take asking a couple times. I'm going to accept that Google might delete them. I'm just going to do it no matter what, because I know that this is going to grow my business. It's the, you know, whoever has had the fear of if I raise prices, I'm going to lose people. I'm not going to close a job again. You know, we all have that fear of that. But let's have the attitude of I don't have control over the prices. The prices are what they have to be to pull the profits I need to pull. You know, I don't have control over inflation. What I do have control over is obsessing over the value in the sales process that we're implementing so that my closing ratio stays the same, even at a higher price. That's what you have control over. You don't have control over what the prices have to be in order to pull the profits you need to pull. Now, lastly, and this one I know some people are going to get emotional about. We are in a hiring shortage nationally, and you guys are already in an industry that doesn't have a lot of applicants. You can probably blame my generation for that. We don't like working with our hands. Sorry. And so you might be stuck in that phase of nobody wants to work, attitude's stuck, and my industry doesn't have applicants. And you might be 100% right. But we don't have control over that. You don't have control over that. What you do have control over is dedicating time daily to your hiring system and investing into that process so that you're never short on applicants. That's the attitude we have to have. You can still accept that you're in a hiring shortage. That's the facts. But we don't have control over that. This is what we do have control over. Marcus Aurelius, he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find your strength. It's so true. That doesn't mean that we have our heads in the clouds and we're ignoring the facts. It means that we're not getting emotional over the things we don't have control over, and we're focusing and obsessing and being stubborn about the things that we do have control over. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with some questions. We're going to go here. I want you to already be thinking about your answers because we're going to discuss it during the group call here today. But ultimately, the reason why you're putting yourself through the pain and the change and the uncomfortability is because you know that owning a business is a vessel to your personal goals. You know that being a business owner is what's going to allow you to have generational wealth. It's what's going to allow you to have the time freedom, financial freedom. You know you're not going to be able to get that from being an employee. And so you're willing to put yourself through this uncomfortability, through this constant need for change. And often when you guys are in your day-to-day, you can kind of lose the goal. It's hard to see that when you're in the middle of the day-to-day, when you're dealing with employees and customers. But ultimately, your business is what's going to get you the lifestyle and what's going to provide for family that you've always wanted to. And so we've got to get stubborn about it. And so here's some of my questions that I want you guys thinking of. And if you could write it down, you know, your answer to each of these questions, that'd be great so that we can go over it during our group or during our breakout rooms. But what are some areas in your business that you felt a little bit intimidated by, so you've ignored them? One of the biggest ones we see is accounting and bookkeeping, knowing your numbers, trading and holding your team accountable. Sometimes you can feel like I've told the team 1,000 times and they're still not doing it. I don't know what else to do. Leaning into sales and marketing activities, like the group call we had last week. That'd be a good one to listen to. Are you taking care of yourself so that you can be your best self in the business? I know I'm getting a little hunky-dory on you guys again, but if you aren't taking care of yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to be present in your business and be the best version of you. What this looks like is feeding your mind, books, podcasts, meditation, physically and emotionally taking care of yourself, owning your schedule, gym and wellness activities, dedicating family time. Let's not be neglecting date night with your spouse. These things that are going to allow you to be a happier, better person in and out of the business. And then my last question for you guys is, what consumes more of your time? Are you spending your time focusing on what is in your control or what is out of your control? Things like inflation, out of our control, versus raising prices, in our control. Things like focusing on the fact that you're in a hiring shortage versus focusing on your hiring process. And then lastly, owning a business is hard versus I'm going to have the mindset to win. I don't care what it's going to take, what it's going to do. I'm going to do what's required of me to get to my goals, and I'm going to be pretty dang stubborn about it. So write down your answers to those 3 questions. I'm going to have Bryce put us into the breakout room so we can discuss it more there.